Over there in the tower? Over in the tower, or where? Oh, I see. They're far. One of them's weak, Jackson.
No one left but you. Who cares? You have everything you need to win. Let them come. This is their fate. It's a one-on-one fight now. This is it.
Where's the last one? Where's the last one? Where is he?
Only 1 minute left.
Yep, I did.
This week at Bungie, some stuff hit the proverbial fan. Or maybe it didn't. It just depends on how you view the upcoming changes to Destiny's cosmetics. That being transmog, or armor synthesis, being capped at 10 pieces per character per season, or 20 pieces in this initial season. But people were very upset by the fact that they were locking it, to 10 times a season. And say what you will about it, I've made my statements known. I think that overall, the changes coming are a good thing, and that, I'd rather have transmog in this state than to not have it at all, just initially, right? I think that the changes coming to shaders and whatnot is also a good thing. I think overall it's good. And I'm hoping that Bungie uses this time to hopefully figure it out. What I said last week in my video was that I think that this is going to be something we have to deal with for a season. And then hopefully Bungie figures it out next season and, implements it. Or maybe they can make a change during the season. I don't know. But I just think that this is kind of something we have to deal with for now. And overall, it's fine. But the controversy arose with the this week's TWAB, being that after all the community backlash, nobody said a word about armor synthesis or transmog, and I understand to a point the frustration, like, whenever something is in such a bad condition, you want to hear something good, but I think it is what it is, and I think that overall, it's not a big deal, right? Overall, I think the TWAB was good. We got some information about the Vault of Glass coming, basically May 22nd. Mark your calendars, that's whenever it's going to come, with contest mode enabled, and that's going to be set to, world's first is going to be a thing again. Whoever can get it done the fastest, good luck. I think my clan might attempt it. I don't know. But if you want the world's first belt, there's actually a list of things you have to do. I think you actually have to complete it twice, technically. But I could be wrong. I think that that's kind of what it's saying, but I'm less concerned about that. I'm happy that they gave us a definitive date. You do only have to be at 1300 power level, which is awesome. Most Guardians should be close to that already. We know that the cap is only going up by 10. It's basically just going to be Pinnacle cap. All of that to say, I am far more excited about the changes coming to the weapon sandbox. So, to open up, we have Precision 450 RPM auto rifles, which everybody knew that these needed some help. So let's see what they say. This subfamily fell behind other auto rifles in the auto rifle tuning last year, so damage has been increased to be closer to the time to kill of others. Increased precision auto rifle damage per bullet from 17 to 18. Now, I love my precision frame auto rifles. I absolutely adore them. But this seems subpar at best, right? Like, this just doesn't really seem worth it. Giving us 1 damage for precision shot, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. It just doesn't seem worth it. But, we'll see, I guess, right? We'll see how it pans out. Moving on, linear fusion rifles. Now, this is another big one. I love linear fusion rifles, right? Like, I absolutely love them. And I'm excited because they actually mentioned something that I've said before. They mention it, right? I've said before that linear fusions need to be made special weapons. You can have your heavy ones, like, you know, of course, Sleeper Simulant. That's fine, but as a whole, they need to be made into special weapons. Now, here's what they do have to say for now. These are an unpopular choice in PvE, largely because other weapons do their intended jobs better and more efficiently, without the requirement of landing all precision hits. We want to keep the LFR's focus on precision damage, but decided to increase the precision damage to make them more competitive, and increase reserves to give them more staying power. Note that we have seen plenty of suggestions to move some or all LFRs out of the heavy slot, but this is a substantial amount of work and a balanced risk for PvP, due to the difficulty of balancing sniper rifles as instant shot weapons against LFRs with charge time, with wildly varying flinch and aim assist values, and reduces weapon diversity in the heavy slot. It's still a possibility for some time in the future, though, if tuning them as heavy weapons doesn't have the desired effect. So basically, they're going to increase precision damage by 15% and increase reserve ammo by 20%. Look, I'm excited about the changes, period, but I'm even more excited that they even mentioned the possibility of moving them out of the heavy slot. That's something that I've been saying forever, and I think that could be huge. Moving on, regular fusion rifles. This was unexpected. The recent buff to fusion rifle range had a side effect of making the best subfamily for PvP, high impact, even better, and so we decided to bring low range stat fusion rifles up a fair bit. Increased damage fall off start distance for fusion rifles, no effect on 100 range stat, to 2 meters on 0 range stat. I think this is good. Overall, you know, it makes them, you only use the high impact ones in PvP. You don't really have a reason to use any of the others. Moving on, we have weapon perks. And the first one is Subsistence. When we made this perk, we were experimenting with unusual downsides for powerful perks, but ultimately decided that reducing reserves wasn't an interesting trade-off. We also wanted to be able to put the perk on special and heavy weapons where reducing reserves would feel terrible. Submachine guns were granting a much smaller magazine fraction than auto rifles, so we fixed that at the same time. Basically, no longer reduces reserve ammunition, and submachine guns now receive the same ammo fraction per takedown the auto rifles do. Was 10% like most weapons, now 17%, same as auto rifles. I am stoked about this. No longer reducing reserve capacity is huge. Subsistence is going to become a great perk for PvE and PvP. Keep an eye out for weapons with it. Moving on, high impact reserves and under pressure. Due to a technical constraints at the time these were created, the trigger condition for these on projectile impact, i.e. the bonus, won't take effect until you fire the weapon once, but we have more flexibility in perk activators now. These are now active as long as their conditions are met. I've been saying this for a long time. Like, I have my Glaciocasm, it has both high impact and under pressure, and it doesn't work on the first shot. You start off, you only have 2 shots in the magazine, and then that is it. And it doesn't work on the first shot, so you have to shoot it once, and then it kicks in. This is huge, and be expecting to see more fusion rifles as a result. Moving on, Unrelenting. This was hard to trigger in difficult content, and the health awarded was hard to perceive. Now, easier to trigger in PvE, immediate trigger on majors, and heals 20% more. So, basically, this is going to be a lot more user-friendly in PvE. Now, we know that, at PvP it's kind of usable, but the fact that you're going to get 20% more health might actually make it viable. Moving on to Sympathetic Arsenal. Isn't appealing enough for many players as it is, but is useful in niche situations, so we decided on a small buff to sweeten it a little. Now grants plus 20 reload in addition to its primary effect. I think this is good. This is cool. This makes it, like it says, a little bit more useful. Does sweeten it just a little bit. I like it. Next is Dragonfly. It always bugged us that Dragonfly wouldn't proc on every enemy you could finish with a precision hit. Now works on heavy shanks and servitors and occurs even faster than after the season of the Chosen fix. So basically, this should work on all enemy types now, but more importantly, this procs a little bit faster. It's going to be a little bit more instantaneous. Again, another good buff. Moving on to Hipfire Grip. We're being careful not to overbuff this, since when Hipfire is too effective it changes the game significantly, so we're just bumping this a bit more over Season of Arrival's buff to make it more useful option. Plus 1 degrees precision hipfire angle threshold, plus 1.2 times reticle stickiness fall off distance. 1 degree doesn't seem like that much, but for reference, hand cannon aim assistance cone angle is 2.5 degrees over 0 AA to 3 degrees over 100 AA, and you can feel the difference between a 90 AA hand cannon and a 100 AA hand cannon. A 0.05 degree increase, so a small difference can be significant. Note the precision hipfire angle caps at the aim down sights assist cone angle. I know a lot of Guardians are concerned about this regarding like Dead Man's Tale and Last Word, but I think this is good overall. A lot of people are just worried that Last Word is going to be super dominant again. I'm sorry, reality check, like, it hasn't been dominant this entire time if you know what you're doing with it. This is fine. I'm not too worried about this. I don't mind seeing more Last Words or DMT maybe, but we'll see. Moving on, this is a trifecta here: Iron Grip, Iron Gaze, and Iron Reach. Basically, this is awesome, by the way. They're just reducing the secondary stat penalties on those from -40 to -30. This is huge. This is going to make these weapons way more user-friendly that have these on it, like my Time-Worn Spire with Iron Grip on it. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be absolutely nasty. I'm super stoked for this, so get ready to see more of that in the future. Next is Osmosis and Elemental Capacitor, and this one is kind of concerning. We didn't have time to address these when Stasis came into being, but always wanted them to work correctly when playing a Stasis subclass. Osmosis now switches the weapon to Stasis damage when playing a Stasis subclass. This should work for any mechanics that ask for Stasis damage, but not for Stasis ability damage. Also created Stasis VFX for all weapon types that Osmosis can appear on, more coming later. Elemental Capacitor with the Stasis subclass grants plus recoil direction and reduces ADS move speed penalty. I'm stoked for Elemental Capacitor. I'm worried about Osmosis. Does this mean you're going to be able to shoot people and slow them or freeze them? Because if that's what that means, that's not good. You know, if it just adds Osmosis as a damage type to use on things that need it, then good. But if this is going to change PvP, I am super concerned. And then moving on to no distractions. Because of an exotic change below, then the sniper flinch changes in Season of the Chosen, we wanted to make no distractions a more appealing option for combating flinch. Reduce trigger time from 1.5 seconds to 1 second, and increase flinch reduction from 30% to 35%. This is huge. I'm so stoked about this because I love no distractions. I have a couple good snipers with no distractions. I think this is going to be awesome. And mentions an exotic change below. I wonder what that's all about. Moving on to Celerity and Bottomless Grief. We already know what they mentioned about that. Basically, Celerity is always going to grant plus 20 to handling and plus 20 to reload in addition to its triggered effect. Bottomless Grief now always grants plus 30 to magazine in addition to the triggered effect. Bottomless Grief is going to be huge on, like, let's say, Palindrome. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's going to be good on Swarm, it's going to be good on Shadow Price, especially with Shadow Price getting its little buff. This is good. This makes these a little bit cooler, and of course, with the Adept weapons in the future, they're going to be intrinsic, not intrinsic, I should say, but those perks are going to be included on those basically for free. All you're going to have to do is switch between that or the other perk. Then after that, we're moving on to weapon mods. And we have Adept Mag and Adept Targeting. Basically, they're reducing the secondary stat penalty from -20 to -15. That's huge, and they're fixing Adept Mag, now granting reserves when applied to a sword. That's another huge one. Taking away the stat penalties, first off, I never liked the idea of stat penalties. That just made them seem not user-friendly at all. Like, I don't use any of the ones that grant negative bonuses or minuses. I've never really cared to use those just because they're not super friendly. And then Adept Counterbalance, increased recoil direction benefit. That's good because Adept Counterbalance doesn't seem much better than regular Counterbalance. If you have like a summoner, for example, you notice the difference. You notice like it needs a little bit more to make it more useful. Now, moving on to exotic weapons, Mida Multi-Tool. We've seen many requests to switch this from Outlaw to something more useful, and one thing we've observed is Mida losing fights at weapons that cause more flinch, so here we go. Change the Catalyst perk from Outlaw to No Distractions. Oh my god. This is amazing. Mida Multi-Tool is one of my favorite exotics in the game. I've always loved it. And I always thought that it was crazy that, you know, it granted Outlaw because it already had super fast reload speed. Like, it didn't need Outlaw. Giving it no distractions? You know, Mida's going to be a contender next season. Just saying. Dust off your Mida. Get ready for some crazy plays. Now, Hawk Moon increased priority of Paracausal Charge and Paracausal Shot buff text. This was sometimes dropping off at the bottom of the list. So, nothing. They're not buffing anything. They're just fixing it to where it doesn't show up. And then, lastly, we're going to go over just a few changes that they have planned for the future. All shotguns. We don't expect the change to the 2 dominant shotguns, replacing Quick Draw with Surplus and nerfing Quick Draw to really move the needle on shotgun usage overall in PvP. We agree that some of the comments, the weapon usage is not only depending on tuning, but the map design is also a factor. However, we want more weapons to be viable on all maps, and we can achieve this through tuning, given other special weapons room to excel, specifics coming later. So basically, buff everything else, don't just bring shotguns down. That's a positive thing. Now moving on to DMT. With the upcoming nerf to 120 hand cannon range, we expect to see a surge in DMT usage. Little Joe Rogan parody there, which is already high. We had enough moving pieces in Season 14 that we didn't want to try to squeeze this in at the same time, but we have a change ready to go that reins in its ability to challenge sniper rifles, 120 hand cannons, and scout rifles, while in hip fire without detracting from the fantasy of the weapon. Good. Right? That's all that needs to be said. Good. Fusion rifles. As with some of the other changes above, we don't want to bump these too much too fast, so we will follow up if needed. Basically, fusion rifles are going to get a little buff here pretty quick, and if they need to be drawn back, then they'll get drawn back. Overall, these are all good things, right? Like, all of these are good changes, for the most part. The only one that I'm a little worried about is Osmosis. Now, again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're not going to make Osmosis freeze targets. If not, then good, right? Like, that's a bad thing. We don't want to do that. But if they just make it to where it adds a stasis, type to it, and it doesn't cause stasis, effects, then I'm happy with it. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe it's just going to be more viable in PvP. I don't know. Elemental Capacitor is cool, though. Changing the recoil direction ADS penalties, that's a good thing. So overall, I think this is good. Am I sad that there wasn't anything said about the transmog or the armor synthesis? A little bit, but again, we have one more TWAB left in the season. Let's give Bungie a chance, okay? If they don't say anything, then you can pull the pitchforks out. But until then, guys, I am just a messenger, so don't shoot me. Anyways, that's really going to be it for me, guys. I just wanted to go over these details into TWAB, so let me know what you think, or if you have any comments of your own, let me know in the comment section what you think about these changes. What's your most favorite one? What do you think is the most significant one? And are there any that you're worried about? So let me know there, guys. I appreciate you all for following. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, my friends, Godspeed.